Hi, Shauna here from Dancing Raven Studio. Welcome to Acrylic Painting 101 Basics for Beginners. This is Lesson 14B. This is what we've been working for in all the other videos that has led up to this point. We are going to paint the lemon. This is the final painting for the class, though I do have a bonus video that will come out next week. Thank you to Sassy Cat for asking the question. Grab your paint tools and let's get moving. Part 1, Drawing the Lemon. I measured it and it was about 3 centimeters or 1¼ inches, and I'm just going to put a grid on using a mechanical pencil because I like how thin the lead stays. I do this because it makes it easier to actually draw the lemon accurately. I take a bunch of time to remove it with the eraser. You can see I have a kneaded eraser and I'm just pulling off as much of the graphite as I can, but still leaving some so that I can see the lines enough to be able to start filling in the registration marks for where the lemon is intersecting with the lines. So I'm drawing it in. I'm using raw umber, which I've loosened up quite a bit by adding a lot of water, so it's quite runny and it's quite thin. And I'm just slowly building it up. And now we're on to the lemon slice. And now we're gonna just continue drawing. This is a long video, so I'm going to narrate some. There's going to be some parts that have music, so you can just watch and without my commentary at every moment. So let's get the lemon segments in, and now the cast shadow for the lemons. I want to put in as much information as I possibly can. It's going to be very helpful when I go to paint the lemon. Part 2, First Painting Pass on the Lemon. I'm going to begin with the background. I've chosen to keep it really simple, and I'm just using white paint. I photographed this lemon and the slice, this little still life setup, on white, which makes it very simple. I'm not worried about covering it 100%. I'm coming back for a second pass at the end after I finish the first pass. You can see here, I actually dried the white paint before I started this, but I pulled off all of the extra graphite that I could because those lines have a sneaky habit of showing through yellow paint because yellow paint is very light. So it's just worthwhile taking a few minutes to remove it. And here we go. I'm using the Cad Yellow Medium color string that I tested out on the color study lemon that we did in lesson 14A. The link is below. To see how to mix the colors, head on over to lesson 8, and that link is below as well. The first pass, I'm trying to get the information as accurate as I can, but it's hard to see when everything's white and to compare it. And then you put on a little bit of yellow and it seems so bright compared to what you're looking at. So I'm slowly building it up. I'm looking back and forth at the lemon and I'm trying to become as accurate as I possibly can. I don't go very far down on the value scale here. I think that I am like a value 4 on this lemon because lemons are so light. And this is value 4. I'm putting it on. I'm going to bring a brush in and I'm just going to soften, and I've brought in a lighter value, so a value 5. And now I'm going to soften those edges together. You can't really wait with acrylic. You have to do that fairly quickly or else it dries. Then it's not going to move around as much as you need it to or would like it to. I keep looking back and forth at the shapes that I'm seeing so that I'm trying to capture where the light is the lightest, and I'm working towards where it's the darkest and how the light is shifting as it rolls over the lemon. Now on to the glowing lemon slice. Now, a lemon is very opaque because it's got this peel on. Now, a lemon slice is very translucent. And it's quite fun to see how the light transfers through and brings interesting different variations into this section of the lemon. I did have some of the neutral grays just on the palette as well so that I could lower the chroma of the yellow, whichever value I was working on. And I had that flexibility of being able to lower the chroma with ease because I have that little bit of gray. I can just touch it. It doesn't need a lot sometimes, but that little bit of just taking the zing out of it and making it look more realistic is just such a simple little trick when you're painting. This painting took me over 3.5 hours to actually do. The final video after all the editing was about 1 hour and 10 minutes, which seemed a little long. Now, if you would like me just to put it at real time, you can let me know and I would be happy to put it at real time with just some music to it, and then you can see exactly every move that I make and you can paint along with me. Leave a comment below if you want me to do the real-time video. Bringing in some of the darker, and you can see the value shifts in the cast shadow. The cast shadow has all sorts of interesting values because light is bouncing around the space and is really making it look interesting. I'm pretty sure I have it a little dark at this point, but again, it's our first layer. I'm not worried about that. I can make all of those corrections in the next pass. Part 3, second painting pass on the lemon. Here's when we start to refine things. I'm going to do another layer of the white background. To make sure that there are no ridges in the background because it will catch the light and do kind of weird things. want to clean up that edge there so that the white isn't getting into the cast shadow too much. And it's easy to clean up at this point when it's still slightly damp. Now here we come. We have information already. We can see that I could see that it's not quite light enough. So I've lightened it up and I'm just using pretty much the same brush all the way through. Touching the edges, softening them. The second pass is easier in a way because you have something to feed off of. You can see what is working and what's not, and you have something more to work with. The blog post is up, so you can go and get the handout if you need to. That you can do the same painting if you would like to join me in that. If you have any questions, just put a comment in below and I will answer them. I'm darkening up underneath. I can see that there's light underneath. Oops, got a little bit of water on there. Didn't dry my brush off well enough. Clear off that background and soften that edge, adding different values of this string onto the lemon. We have reflected light there, bouncing back. And I'm using a really soft brush so I can kind of move the paint around and soften the edges of it as I'm working away. Darkening up the core shadow. So I had a very big shade side of this lemon, simply because there's a lot of light bouncing back from the white background. Looking at and making sure I'm as correct as I can be with that shape, softening that edge. And there's a little bit more of that darkness that I'm seeing in there. And now I'm going to come and soften that into that core shadow. A little bit more and soften it, move the paint around. Let's lighten in this area here. And working on those translucent lemon segments. And just moving the paint around, straightening it out, moving it away from where it's gone over the edge. I keep looking back and forth at my image to what I'm painting. You have to really move your eyes back and forth, back and forth. those subtle shifts in value are really what brings an object to life. I'm seeing that there is some more bounce light in here. It's not as dark as I have it, so I'm just going to lighten it up a bit and soften those edges into the darker section. I add a little bit of paint, I move it around. I add a little bit more paint and I move it around. I stand back and think, oh, it's too light, it's too dark. This is an interaction with what I'm painting and the paint that I'm using and taking the time that it takes to do this. When I make the value string, it really affords me a lot of flexibility. I can choose from a value 8 and a value 7 and mix a 7.5 as I'm working. Or I can darken it a little bit more. Maybe value 7 is not enough. It's not quite a 6.5 on the value scale, but a little bit darker by adding a little bit of value 6. It's a very helpful technique when you're painting an object that is the same color. And here I'm putting in sort of that cast shadow that is happening on the little nub of the lemon. You'll notice I'll put a little bit of paint and then bring in another brush and I will soften the edges and I will move it around. And I might do that 2 or 3 or 4 times in the same space to get it to where I want it to be. I'm not in a rush. This is not a race. It is just taking the time I need to and seeing what I'm seeing and seeing if I can recreate it. You can see the lemon is really starting to look three-dimensional on this two-dimensional form. This is all about illusion, of creating a look of an object that's three-dimensional. And that's what I adore about painting, that and mixing colors. I love mixing colors. I can see that there's some lighter areas in here that is capturing the light, so I'm in to do that. Put a little bit of the lightness and just a tiny bit of paint and move it around until I'm happy with where it is. It's amazing how an object as simple as a lemon will capture the light differently, and with the light that's bouncing around the setup that I did, it gives a lot of interesting areas to be painting. I use the white brush, which is a Robert Simmons Simply Simmons. I love the amount of pressure I can put on it and how the bristles feel like when I'm sort of moving the paint around. See that little bit of light there? Get my fingers in there because I think I have too much paint and I just need to pull it off and move it around. I don't want a lot of paint, I just want a little bit of paint, but I want it to be moved around to create the sort of look of what you're seeing on the image of the lemon. And because I'm using such small amounts of paint, it allows the other paint to sort of come through, the other value that's there. So it's just softening the value that's underneath because I've used such a small amount of paint. And now I'm putting in some highlights, using my finger to sort of bounce them back until I'm happy with the shape. Now, if you're using oil, you wouldn't be getting your fingers in, but with acrylic, it dries very quickly, so you can do that, and you don't really have to worry about contaminating your painting. Now I've moved to a much smaller brush. Let's get back to this lemon slice. I notice that it seems to be a little darker at the edge, just as it's coming to the pith. So I want to try and create that look. And those subtle variations in that glowing lemon, it takes time to learn how to see those and then how to render them. Now onto the side of the lemon slice. I bring in a smaller brush. This helps me to sort of manage the amount of paint I'm putting onto the translucent part of the lemon slice. And when you need more paint, you bring in a bigger brush. So you can see I move back and forth with different kinds of brushes. I have soft brushes, I have harder brushes, I have smaller brushes, I have larger brushes. It depends on where I'm working on the object. Sometimes I get things a little too dark and I have to come in and I have to lighten it up a little bit. It's part of the sort of figuring out where I am for value. Just touching that little base where the lemon slice is meeting the ground. I need just to lighten it up, so a little bit of paint and move it around to lighten it up to make it fit in with what I'm seeing. Here I noticed that I had the side of the lemon a little bit flat, so I'm rounding it out a little bit more. Now it's easier if you can rotate your board. You might find that much easier to do, to rotate your board and your image at the same time. Trying to capture that glow in the segments of the lemon. So if you're still listening and watching and still at this point into the lemon, thank you for for coming and spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. Interesting in this part of the lemon slice is it has reflected light coming from the actual lemon, so it's much lighter on this side because the light is bouncing back into it. All these little tiny bits of paint and just moving it around until I'm happy with it. Now we're into the cast shadow. And I can see I need to lighten some areas and darken others. Let's get playing with that. So I'm blending it out over top of the other paint that has dried. You notice I'm back to the little brush so that I can just manage the amount of paint I have in an area. It's much easier to manage a smaller brush in a small area. I'm just taking the white and cleaning up the edge of the cast shadow. Pushing that paint back now with the Simply Simmons brush, which is the white-handled brush. Bringing in that darker value just at the base of the lemon slice. And at the base of the lemon. Trying to capture that lighter cast shadow in the back there as the light is bouncing back into the cast shadow. Softening that paint right into the other part of the shadow. Cleaning up with the background color so that I can get those edges to be nice and crisp and clear. What are the subtle shifts I'm seeing right along the top of that segment? A little paint can go a long way, cleaning up the edge. And every time you're not seeing it, but I'm standing back and I'm looking and I'm creating distance so I can see what I'm painting and the image and make sure that I am going where I want it to go, like I'm doing what I need to do. And I can see then, oh, it's too dark, it's too light, a little bit of paint here, a little bit of paint there. There is a bit of a redder glow, so I put in just a tiny bit of burnt sienna, just that had been, the chroma had been lowered, and then I moved it around to give that sort of reflective glow that I was seeing in the cast shadow. We are getting near the end, honestly. It's that slow tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until I'm happy with it. Someday maybe I'll be a faster painter. I've been painting for 10 years. I haven't gotten any faster. I seem to actually have slowed down even more. Tidying up the background. And bringing in that little glow of light that I'm seeing as it reflects back from the lemon onto the lemon slice. There's a seed in there, so it's creating a bit of a darker area, a more opaque area on the lemon slice. So we are getting close to the end. I am doing all the final little tweaks. I stand back and I look and I come forward and I make a little tweak and I stand back and I do it again until I'm content with what I'm seeing. Putting on the white highlights, and I'm sort of moving the brush sort of on the tip of its edge, and there's some white highlights also in the lemon slice. The last little tweaks. We're getting there. The last little places that I'm seeing a little bit of highlight. Final little tweaks. And here we are, a taste of lemon. To receive the handout for each of the lessons, head on over to my website, dancingravenstudio.ca. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next art video.